It's been a pretty regular trend of major franchises making their way to the Nintendo Switch. It's just a very, very good thing to have the ability to play some of the greatest games of all time on the go or at home, and the Nintendo Switch really offers that. Of course, we had the ports of games like The Witcher 3 and so many others before that, and there are so many more to come. And in the month of May, 2K Games will be bringing 3 major franchises to the Nintendo Switch for the very first time, and there's a lot of reason to be excited. I am talking about BioShock the Collection, Borderlands Legendary Collection, and XCOM 2. All of these games are very distinct, have their own playstyle, but they're all great franchises, and it's super exciting to see all of them make their way to the Nintendo Switch for the first time. Honestly, from a 2K standpoint, I don't see the logistical reason as to why they have to be released on the same day. Do you just want people's wallets to be absolutely obliterated? Nonetheless, the fact that these games are coming to the Nintendo Switch is so exciting, and I want to go over each of the franchises if you've never played them and why you should be so excited, even if these games are going to come at it with a hefty price point, given that some of these games are on sale on consoles and other platforms relatively cheap. You know, spending a full $50, $60 is going to be a little bit of a hard sell. However, that is definitely eased a little bit given the quality level of these games. So first of all, BioShock the Collection. This includes BioShock 1, BioShock 2, as well as BioShock Infinite. These are some of the best single-player first-person shooters that you are going to come across. Yes, BioShock 2 did have multiplayer, but don't expect that in the collection. BioShock, the immediate thing people will say about the game is these are very atmospheric first-person shooters. They're very engrossing games that absorb you into the world, and BioShock 1 in particular, back in 2007 when it initially released, was harkened as one of the best, if not the best, first-person shooter of all time. There's a lot of competition in that regard, so I'm not here to make a definitive statement like that. What I will say is BioShock 1 was a tremendous game with very thrilling storytelling as well. BioShock 2 was a very good game as well, not quite at the level of BioShock 1. However, BioShock 1 set the bar so incredibly high that for BioShock 2 to match that or even exceed it, that was going to be very difficult. But BioShock 2 also offered a quality level of a first-person shooter that was very high. And then, of course, you had BioShock Infinite, which was a little bit of a departure from BioShock 1 and 2. BioShock 1 and 2 being set in the underwater city of Rapture, BioShock Infinite now takes you to the skies with a much more vibrant and colorful art style that isn't really reminiscent all too much initially of BioShock 1 and 2. That tight gameplay, that incredible first-person shooting action, that is absolutely there, and the exhilarating storytelling is there as well. And I have to say, with BioShock Infinite, that is some of the best first-person shooting gameplay that you are going to come across in a video game. Yes, I said that about BioShock 1, but BioShock Infinite takes it and makes it even better. And all 3 of these games coming in one collection on the Nintendo Switch. We can play it at home, we can take it on the go. That is going to be incredible, and if you've never played BioShock, man, you are in for an absolute treat. Even if you're not the biggest fan of first-person shooters, I implore you to give BioShock the Collection a look. Maybe even if it's not initially, wait for it to go on sale, and it's going to be a winner of a pickup. Alright, next up we have Borderlands Legendary Collection. Of course, Borderlands is always in the news. Borderlands is one of the more iconic gaming franchises of the last decade, plus Borderlands 3 just came out back in September on a PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. Who knows if that game will ever come to Nintendo Switch. I imagine there are some technical limitations, but at the end of the day, if they can get The Witcher 3 on the Nintendo Switch, there really aren't a lot of excuses for a lot of games. Nonetheless, the Legendary Collection will be including Borderlands 1 Game of the Year Edition. You've got Borderlands 2 and Borderlands the pre-sequel. On top of that, you get the DLC for the respective games, and what does that mean? You get an obscene amount of content for your money. Borderlands is already a very, very content-filled experience. Borderlands 1, very much so. Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel definitely built upon that. However, when you added the DLC, and the DLC is of relatively high quality, now you're just talking about a game that, yes, even if it's released at $50 or $60, you are getting legitimately hundreds upon hundreds of hours of gameplay, and Borderlands is incredibly replayable as well with all of the different characters you can play as. Now, there has always been this notion that Borderlands is a cooperative-based game, and I can understand that notion that Borderlands is best enjoyed with a group of friends. However, take it from me, I've personally played Borderlands with a group of friends, and I've played it solo. I've enjoyed it both way through. This idea you can't play Borderlands solo, I think, is a little bit unfounded. The game has great first-person shooting mechanics. There's a lot of looting and shooting going on. The story is humorous as all hell, and that's something I'll always harken back to. Sometimes we don't need games that are super, super serious. BioShock and Borderlands are kind of on the opposite side of things, where BioShock, a very serious, a very gritty game in some standpoints. Borderlands, on the other hand, yes, it has some emotional moments, but at the same time, you've got so much humor into the game. And given the time period that we're living in right now, some games with a little bit of humor, but at the same time, a lot of high-octane action gameplay is definitely going to be something enjoyable. And again, the sheer amount of content you're getting for your money here with the Borderlands Legendary Collection is absolutely absurd with Borderlands 1, 2, and the pre-sequel. Hopefully, at some point, if this sells well enough, maybe 2K Games can entice Saber Interactive to work with them, and they can get Borderlands 3 on the Nintendo Switch as well. Saber Interactive, the guys that helped out CDPR to get The Witcher 3 on the Nintendo Switch, and they're also helping out EA to get Crysis Remastered done, so they're pretty good at this porting thing, and I think they can get a lot of high-quality titles working on the Nintendo Switch. But nonetheless, that's coming out next month as well. And lastly, this quite possibly could be my most anticipated new port on the Nintendo Switch next month, and that is XCOM 2. XCOM 2 is a game that I played a ridiculous amount of on PC, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. It's the sequel to XCOM Enemy Unknown, and Earth has changed, and now it's under alien rule. Facing impossible odds, you must rebuild XCOM and ignite a global resistance to reclaim the world and save humanity. XCOM is a game with so much depth to it, so much tactics-based gameplay, and what's interesting about it is XCOM 2 initially on PC was not the best port in the world, or I should rather say it wasn't the best PC version of the game in the world, had some performance issues and things of that nature. However, now it's a lot better, and now we've gotten to the point where XCOM 2 is making its way to the Nintendo Switch, which is great to see. There is an obscene amount of content here as well. It does list XCOM 2 and XCOM 2 Collection as two separate releases. You really want to go with XCOM 2 Collection. That'll give you the additional expansion and a lot of other DLC content that is going to add a lot of longevity to the experience, and I highly recommend that. If you're a fan of tactics-based games, if you're a fan of that sci-fi setting, this is something that's going to be right up your alley. It was received very well with an 88 on Metacritic, and honestly, that has just aged like fine wine. It's gotten even better and better. Again, strategy fans, tactics-based fans, or people that just want a game with a little bit of a learning curve, a little bit of challenge, XCOM 2 is going to have that. There's a variety of different difficulty options as well, so you can tailor the experience exactly how you want it. If you want to play through XCOM 2 with a little bit more of an easier gameplay experience, you can do that. However, if you want the ultimate challenge, that option is also there, and you can play somewhere in between. That'll make it a little bit more friendly towards all comers to the game, but it's a fantastic game, and another one much like Borderlands, the Legendary Collection, with an obscene amount of content and replayability. Really, BioShock the Collection is the only one that if you're hesitant about spending $50 or $60 on a game like this that is a little bit older, BioShock the Collection, those three games are relatively short, but if you're talking about 10 to 11 hour games with each of the BioShock titles, that's still 30-35 hours of gameplay, which is pretty good. On the other hand, Borderlands Legendary Collection, you're talking north of 150 hours of gameplay. XCOM 2 Collection, same thing. You're talking about a lot of gameplay. So from a longevity standpoint, from a content standpoint, Borderlands and XCOM 2 are probably the games you want to have your eyes on. Otherwise, from a quality standpoint, BioShock the Collection competes with the best of them. So it's a very exciting time to own a Nintendo Switch, especially if you've been more of a Nintendo gamer your entire life and you've never played games like Borderlands, BioShock, or XCOM 2. And I imagine for the majority of people, they've at least missed out on one of those three. XCOM, I don't think normally associates itself with, you know, Nintendo hardware or anything like that, but now that it's coming to the Switch, it's going to give a lot of new gamers an opportunity to check out an awesome tactics-based game. Borderlands is always a classic, and BioShock is one of the best first-person shooting franchises in history, so a lot of great stuff coming next month. Let us know, are you picking any of these up, or are you going to be busy with the releases of a game like Xenoblade Chronicles or some of the other games that are coming in the month of May? Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.